AskReddit by Lazy Ape. What's the worst physical pain you ever felt? Gout. I thought lovingly about removing my foot with a hacksaw. On numerous occasions till I got my meds dialed in. The weight of a bedsheet was like a spiked boulder resting on my foot. Trigeminal neuralgia. Excruciating stabbing pains triggered by any and everything. You can't touch your face, brush your teeth, eat, kiss, lay on your side, nothing involving your mouth. It's like a relentless ice pick stabbing you or a million electric shocks. Sooner or later, you will want to die. That's why they call it suicide disease. I went way too far to see this. Hello fellow sufferer. I was on 3,600 milligrams of gabapentin at my peak and it fucking sucked. What are your triggers? Mine was cold. I was an American expat living in England when I was diagnosed, and we luckily moved back to the south, and I was about to wean all that was off, and while I still have minor attacks, I wear a dental splint 24 hours a day. I still clench and break my teeth. I don't get them nearly as often. It is so isolating because people just don't understand why you can't do anything but lay there and not move until the pain stops, and that narcotics don't help and you don't want to be touched. You can't talk. You can't move. You can't think. You can't anything. And I have other chronic illness and have given birth 3 times. Had gall and kidney stones. Have a bulging and perforated disc in my L5S1. Have RA. I break teeth easily when I clench. Opened up a pressure cooker while it was still on the stove back in the 90s. 40% of skin surface burned and my heart is now shit on a stick. I worked with a cook who'd been a cook in the army. He was standing next to an industrial sized pressure cooker which exploded. The inch thick door missed him by about 2 feet and left a 2-foot hole in a concrete block wall. The pressure valve jammed. Hockey puck at 80 km/h vs my right testicle, resulting in a testicular rupture and a surgery 2 days later, and didn't lose it either. I'm not even a man, but this made me shiver. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, sounds like hell. Ovarian torsion from a giant cyst. Worse than a broken neck and childbirth. Eater. The broken neck was from a car accident at 17. I snapped 2 of the spines that anchor your shoulder muscles off the back of my vertebrae. Not paralyzed, just incredible pain and a long healing process. One more edit. I later delivered a 9 pounds 5 ounce baby all naturally with no pain meds or interventions. I would rather have 6 more just like it than another ovary twist. I just saw this comment after I posted the same thing. Worst pain ever. Found out my cyst was 6 inches wide and twisted. I don't wish that on anyone. Necrotizing pancreatitis. Basically, my pancreas burst, and the enzymes that usually digest the food in my stomach instead started digesting me. I was eating myself from the inside out. The pain is indescribable. It took a month-long stay in ICU, during which time I died 3 times from the sepsis, followed by 3 months in a hospital bed. I lost over half of my body weight, had to relearn how to walk, talk and eat. It's been nearly 2 years and I'm finally off my pain meds and just about recovered, but I'll never be the same again. I was born with a birth defect that resulted in pancreatitis at 14. I can't even describe to people the pain I experience. A wasp once got trapped under my eyelid whilst I was out walking. Not sure how many times it stung me, but it was horrific. Pretty much shut me down for an hour. A wasp got trapped under your what? New fear unlocked. Sneezed and herniated a disc in my back. Couldn't walk for 5 days. This was almost 2 months ago and I can still barely stand for longer than 5 minutes at a time. Edit to at, after reading some of the replies to my comment, I am one of the lucky ones apparently. I feel bad for all of you and sorry, but I hope I don't have this problem as long as all of you have. My dad herniated 2 discs while we were hiking in the Boundary Waters. Most pain I've ever seen someone experience. He had to get flown out by a helicopter. Kidney stones and it's not close. Edit. Hijacking my own comment because people are asking about prevention. Drink more water than you do now. Just hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Gallbladder stones. And not just a few attacks like hundreds before removal. Tooth abscess. Horribly painful. Not as stuff like kidney stones, but it usually lasts longer and you can basically do nothing to make it pass until the antibiotic takes effect. I almost destroyed my stomach with anti-pain and it didn't do shit. I hated it. After some days the abscess finally broke and it was the most relieving and disgusting feeling at the same time. Blood and pus all over the mouth. But the pain stopped. Edit just to explain further, the dentist told me that he couldn't extract the tooth till the infection was over. I had quagmire tearjaw for some days. Ovarian cyst. Apparently that stuff can kill you, and I've only had it twice ever, but it's worse than anything else I've ever dealt with, and I am not a clever gal, so I've dealt with my share of pain. Oof, those are the worst. The first one I had, I was 14 and thought my appendix had burst. My parents had to take me to the ER where I got my first pelvic cam by the world's oldest man. Traumatic as hell. Gallbladder attacks. My doctor misdiagnosed this for 2 months. I thought I was gonna die for sure. Lost 30 pounds in 2 months because eating was torture. Started telling my wife to move on quickly after I died for the kids' sake. Then my sister-in-law was like, that sounds like it's your gallbladder. 3 days later I had it removed and my doctor still apologizes every time I see him. Appendicitis. So far this has been the worst pain for me. Sitting in the ER waiting to be seen for 6 hours made me want to cry. Shingles and cervical spinal stenosis. Shingles is a very weird and painful pain. Stabbing, stinging. Stepping on a stingray. And I've given birth before. Finally, someone who understands. I don't got beef with stingrays, but fuck stingrays. Shit hurts so fucking bad. I feel like many folks don't realize that they're venomous and that the venom is legitimately excruciating. Doc pulled my tooth after 8 injections of anesthetics. I felt everything. He removed the nerve, then scraped the inflamed jawbone under the tooth with some metal thing. I couldn't stop crying. Deleted. A lot of girls will understand this one, but period cramps, I'm not usually one to get horrific period cramps. They're usually bad but not unbearable. Well, I was at school one time and I was sitting in my class in excruciating pain, sitting in my lesson in tears where I had to go to the matron, school nurse, and she gave me some water and a sick bowl. After about 45 minutes she sent me back to class, but I was in so much pain I had no choice but to beg to go home. She didn't let me. I went to my next class and again burst into floods of tears since it was just so unbearable when my teacher advised me to visit the matron again. Still not being allowed home, in the end I went to my head of year where she called the matron telling her I was to be sent home since I've never been like this in my 5 years of being at that school, meaning it was so strange for me to be in such amount of tea. I think some women who don't experience period pain assume that other women are overreacting. I didn't have any pain for the first year or so and thought people were exaggerating. Then the heavy period started and pain, and then one time having to spend a whole day with a cold flannel on my stomach, unable to even think or move. I was in a fire 13 years ago. I spent 2 weeks in a chemical coma, 3 or 4 surgeries, I think it was 4, but I had 14% of my body reskinned. In the burn unit for a mint and 8.5 months of rehab. Had my wisdom teeth cut out. Halfway through one tooth the medicine wore off. They couldn't renumb it as it was halfway hanging out of my mouth. So I felt everything as they finished removing my wisdom tooth. I got my wisdom teeth removed earlier this year. I am so glad that the anesthetic lasted the whole time, because the pain afterward for the 2 days after was so unbearable. I couldn't imagine what the pain would be during the removal. I woke up during my first wisdom tooth surgery to the dentist drilling the teeth but still couldn't move. I managed to make a noise when she started scraping out the tooth chips. Turns out she didn't have anesthesia and used a high dose of Vicodin knife, and I had a high tolerance for pain meds because of recreational use with my buddies. I remember her finally noticing and looking into my eyes, and her face just went pale and she looked so scared. I can't imagine what I must have looked like. This is exactly the reason you always tell your dentist if you use recreational drugs. I came in high for an appointment, and it turned out I needed one of my teeth drilled right then, and I freaked out and told them I was super high on oxy. They thanked me profusely because mixing in more anesthetics can get you killed. Deleted. Been getting cluster headaches since I was 14. Mushrooms have been a literal lifesaver. Before I found those work for preventing cluster cycles, I tried to throw myself out of a window to make the pain stop. They haven't been nicknamed suicide headaches for nothing. Cluster headaches can make a perfectly normal person go absolutely insane. I know some women who get them and they all say they would rather deal with giving birth than deal with a cluster headache. IUD insertion hurt worse than my miscarriages, and one of those came with an infection. They're like yo urdu go nnaf tt lepiari suri. It hurt so bad I was screaming and I passed out on the table. I was doubled over in pain and crying in their waiting room afterwards, waiting for them to give me my paperwork because they were on the phone. Why the fuck do they not sedate for such an invasive and excruciating procedure? Period cramps that I had at age 16-17. They were worse than giving birth. Appendicitis and kidney stones. The pain would cause me to faint while sitting down in school, and I once had a set of cramps so brutal that I was screaming at the top of my lungs in excruciating pain, literally thinking I was going to die. It felt like my lower stomach was on fire, being stabbed, kicked and twisted repeatedly while being stung by a million wasps. My dad was there, and this is one of 2 times I've ever seen him cry or show fear. I was looking for the period cramp comment. That's mine too, and I've experienced a lot of major injuries in my life. Decided to take about a dozen Nodos because someone online said it would feel like cocaine. I spent the night with my head crammed into the corner of a room because I could have sworn the swelling in my brain was going to crack my skull open. It does not, in fact, feel like cocaine. Cocaine, on the other hand. Most recently, swollen and clogged milk ducts. Mastitis is seriously not talked about enough when nurses talk about nursing. It's so darn painful. I have endometriosis, so that's pretty bad. I ignored kidney stones because I thought they were just kind of moderate cramps. I ended up getting a UTI from passing the stones or something, and ignored that, too, because urinary issues are common with endo. The infection spread to my kidneys and I had to be hospitalized. That kind of sucked. I also have this left-sided pain. Not sure if it is my stomach or my spleen. Hurts so badly sometimes want to curl into a fetal position while also removing my flesh mayo. The fact that you thought kidney stones were moderate cramps is horrifying. Hope you're doing better. Burst eardrum. Worse than a broken collarbone. My boyfriend had a bad ear infection last year, and the burst eardrum was the best part. Lying there in pain, moaning a little, then OMG, that's so much better as all the pressure in his middle ear was released. Might sound stupid next to all of those other comments, but the pain I felt in my heart when I saw my father laying dead on the ground in our kitchen broke my arm before, and that was nothing compared to that. In Iraq I was hit by 2 roadside bombs 16 years ago and it still hurts. 10 herniated disc, fractured my face, pulled my shoulder out of socket, traumatic brain injury, PTSD. Whiskey helps though. A combination of kidney stones plus kidney infection plus septic shock plus kidney stents placed incorrectly. Boy, was that a hell of a time. I ended up having 3 surgeries in 3 months for that nonsense, and I was in hospital almost the entire time.